Live from the Carl Chevrolet Studios in West Des Moines, this is Iowa Live.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. It is time to go visit with Professor Jeff Stein and see what has happened on this day in Iowa history with the Iowa Almanac. Hello, Professor Stein. How are you?
Lou, I am doing well for a Monday. How about yourself?
We are doing well at the same time, which is great. Now, we are going to talk about something that is so cool, and we mentioned to people over the weekend about our topic of discussion today. People went, I remember that. I remember that movie from a long time ago. We're talking about a movie that was taking place here in the state of Iowa, and we're talking about more than 50 years ago. Of course, we know Field of Dreams and Twister and all that, but we're talking about a legendary movie that was filmed right down the road from where we are sitting right now, Professor Stein.
Absolutely, Lou, and the movie's plot was very simple. As part of a public relations campaign, an advertising executive comes up with the idea of a tobacco company paying $25 million to any town in America that could stop smoking for 30 days. The movie, of course, was called Cold Turkey, and it was actually filmed in Iowa well before those others you mentioned. The filming did in the summer of 1969. Stars including Bob Newhart, Dick Van Dyke, Gene Stapleton, Tom Poston, and Barnard Hughes all appeared in the film, which was directed by Norman Lear, and this was before he would go on to create groundbreaking TV sitcoms, including All in the Family.
This is a classic. Now, they remade this movie not too long ago, but this was the original one. Now, a lot of times when they say a movie was shot in Iowa, for example, we'll use Twister, for example. Yeah, it was supposed to be from Iowa, but we found out that a lot of the scenes were shot elsewhere. Now, what about this movie here? Did they actually film here?
They absolutely did. Now, the film was set in a fictional small town called Eagle Rock, Iowa.
We're looking at Bob Newhart there right in the middle. Look at that young Bob Newhart.
Well, and he's ageless, as we know from his work today. But yeah, this was more than 50 years ago. So they said it was Eagle Rock, but they actually filmed around Greenfield. The Cold Turkey campaign in the movie turned Eagle Rock into a bickering community, and the story becomes much less about smoking and more about the transformation of character brought about by greed. $25 million, remember. Now, while that movie was being made, the movie studio's publicity department actually engaged in a real stop smoking campaign in Greenfield. If you completed the task, you got a button that said IQ, which meant I quit. And the United Artists Studio gave the mayor of Greenfield a check for $6,000 that was ultimately used to buy a set of chimes that would ring hourly in the town square. Now, dozens of Iowans can be seen in the movies as extras in various scenes, and many of those turned out in December of 2014. You remember this? When the then 92-year-old Norman Lear came back to Iowa to remember that summer from 45 years before when he directed the movie. Here, they had a reunion. It was the only movie, by the way, Norman Lear ever directed, and it earned 4 stars from the acclaimed critic, Roger Ebert.
Yeah, 4-star review came after the movie was released, but the studio really wasn't 100% sure about it, was it?
Well, they filmed it in 1969, but it took almost 2 years for the distributor to actually release it. They weren't sure it would be successful, but audiences loved it, especially the ones who turned out in Des Moines for the movie's world premiere, which was on this date in 1971. And Lou, another fun fact, big month for Norman Lear. On January 12th of 1971, the very first episode of All in the Family premiered, and then on January 30th, just a few weeks later, the only movie he ever directed premiered. I'd say that's a month to remember.
No question about it. If people want to get the details of what we just talked about, where can they go?
IowaAlmanac.com. Follow us on Twitter as well at Iowa Almanac.
And something else that on this date, on the 30th of January, it is Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day, Professor Stein. So we're going to send you out with a firework full of bubble wrap. Thank you so much, sir, and we will talk to you next time.
It's no less than I deserve. Have a good day.
Have a great day, everybody.